Okay, thank you guys for joining us. If you have been with us all morning, welcome back. So for this session, what we're doing is a little bit different, a little bit of a round table. So I've asked some faculty who I know are doing fun and interesting things with AI to come and chat with us. So I've got a few of them here, and I'm going to ask them to do like a 3 to 5 minute introduction, and then we're going to open it up for discussion, and you can ask them questions. We can chat about things in detail, explore some of the assignments they're thinking about or have done, etc. So I've tried to pull from different disciplinary backgrounds. So I've got Lonnie, I believe is how you say your name, from math, and then Sarah from biology, geology, and environmental science, and then Caitlin and Tammy both from criminal justice. So I'm gonna we'll go in that order. So Lonnie, Sarah, Caitlin, then Tammy, just give me your 5 minute, 3 to 5 minute introductions, if you will.
Okay, all right. I'm Nini Gao from the Department of Mathematics. Um, it's great to be here and hear all you guys how you are using AIs in teaching. So for my case, I got a mini proposal integrating AI in teaching applied statistic method. This was funded by my college, CAS, in fall 2023. Since then, I started to use AI tools in teaching upper level statistics. So lower level stats, student probably is a little bit harder to use AI. So right now I'm using AI tools in my graduate level statistic courses. So I would like to briefly share two ways I have integrated AI in my teaching in classroom. So the first way I use AI so is probably my statistic, is basically you guys probably know that. So we need to work on data set, but pretty often I end up for my graduate level courses, usually it's like 10 to 15 students in the class. Whenever I assign homework or project with some data set, pretty often it end up with like they got a very similar report. Sometimes either is a correct report or wrong report. They are the same, just with a different student name. So to tackle this, I started using large language model like ChatGPT and Gimli to help me generate random data set instead of the fixed data set. That way, each individual student have a unique data set. Of course, this is randomly generated by AI tools. I use R language, so I use write a mini app in the R language, and then the student just hit the button, and then they got a different data set. Then they need to work on their data set. So they cannot just copy and paste other people's work. So this way, it has a couple of benefit. It will reduce copying, of course, and for students to think critically about their analysis, because this is your unique data. You end up with a different number from the others. So you need to interpret your own output. And it's also help stimulate kind of messy variable data. You're saying they really like this kind of job, because whenever I have an assignment in Canvas, okay, I ask you first thing to do is hit the button, and then you get a data. So if you and then you look at your own data set, you need to work on your own, not the others. Then the second way I use AI is I encourage students to use ChatGPT as a statistical assistant. What I mean statistics assistant, because for my upper level statistics course, student need to require to use R software. R is a open source statistics software. They need to use this software to conduct the data set for each single assignment. But the thing is, most of people, they are beginner of R user, or some people say, I have zero experience of coding. I don't know a single basic R command. So, but for graduate level, we have so many topics to cover. So if I just teach them step by step how to use R, it take like at least 2 weeks to cover those basic R coding skills. So what I do is I start to use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT can work along with R. So students use ChatGPT as a statistics assistant. This way, I encourage students to use ChatGPT to help them trouble boost their coding and generate a draft, a starter code. Then they work on with the starter code, not just work on with a blank, empty R coding file. So they already have like a draft coding file from ChatGPT, and they just run line by line and say if each line makes sense or not. And then they can even ask ChatGPT to help them to interpret what each of these R coding mean and help them to interpret the output from this coding. And more importantly, it's pretty often they got output, they generate a figure. Oh, look, I got a figure. But how to read this figure, how to interpret what this figure tell people. So they need to learn this, and then they need to think, not just say, oh, the chat. Okay, I got this from ChatGPT, and I got the coding, I got the result. But what it means, they still need to use the static concept to interpret the result from the R coding. And, sometimes I tell students, don't trust ChatGPT 100% blindly. Sometimes the ChatGPT could give you a wrong, and you still need to, you are human, you need to think and see if this is wrong or not. And then if it's wrong, how to fix that. So that's you still have to learn those concept from the course and then interpret the result. So my final goal for using this ChatGPT as a statistics assistant is that I want to I want to combine the human statistics judgment and the AI assistant. So like I mentioned, ChatGPT can be very wrong, but also you need to wisely use it. It's like pretty often my student end up with this. Hey, Dr. Gao, I didn't get help for coding from the ChatGPT because they didn't ask correctly. So pretty often it's like in class, I also need to teach them how to ask ChatGPT because your question is not specific and you is too general and you have to provide more details. So this is I ask them to how to ask in this process. It also helps student to think why we have to ask this way and how to explain the result. So it's kind of like still a learning process using this ChatGPT as a statistics tool. So I want them to combine the human statistics judgment and the AI assistant uh, to work on the project. So at the end of the class, each student is assigned a final project with a unique data set and they have to conduct the full data analysis from the beginning. They have to write down what is the research question, what the structure of data set look like, and how what statistical method they choose, why they choose this, and what is their coding, and whether they use the ChatGPT and which part they use the ChatGPT to help. So those kind of things, and also of course they have to interpret their output and the result. And they have a discussion as well as a group after the oral presentation.
Well,
I think that's all I want.
that's awesome. Yeah. It's interesting to see how it can code for sure. I do Python and R coding myself, so I totally get it. Sarah, I think you're up next.
Yes, and those are some great ideas. Yeah, thank you. So, for me, in past semesters, I was always focused on designing out when I was thinking about AI. So, all my course assessments for all my classes were designed to prevent students from using AI generated materials in their submissions. And I was just spending so much energy like policing it. I spoke with Heather a lot. Heather was very, very helpful. I also spoke with Chapel Cowden in the library to really focus more on designing in, so allowing generative AI to more so support students as they engage in more advanced thinking. So specifically for me, my kind of issues or concerns or confusion arose around this class that I teach that is completely online. It's asynchronous. It's for non-majors. So I'm in the biology, geology, and environmental science department, as Heather mentioned. And so this is a natural science gen ed for non-majors. So again, completely online, asynchronous. And so specifically the SLO that was always kind of giving me issue with AI was showing that students could demonstrate scientific literacy by locating, evaluating, interpreting, and applying scientific information. That was just becoming really hard for me to show that they accomplished completely online, but trying to keep them from using AI. So what in designing in, I tried to focus on using AI or having them use AI as a collaborator. So I designed some assignments over the summer. Specifically, I designed one assignment in which I asked students to create a 1-minute video in Canvas Studio, applying their current course material to their own personal interests, whether it's their major, because again, they're non-majors, or some type of personal interest like a hobby. So the students are prompted to use generative AI to assist them in further understanding the material in a way that's relevant to them. So what I asked them to do, and I use the tilt method. I've really liked and embraced that, where you give them a specific purpose, a task, and criteria for success. Like that's helped students, I think, lay out assignments really clearly or understand them clearly. So I asked students to consider their current course material for the fall of 2025 will be focused on energy, cellular respiration, and photosynthesis. And I asked them to identify a concept that they found most challenging to master from the text and lectures of that content. I then asked them to input a prompt that asks AI to act as a tutor for that content. So they might ask AI to summarize the material, answer questions, create some relevant examples. But I then asked students to use that valuable generated output to develop a 1-minute video of how this newly acquired information can be applied in a relevant way, again, to their major or if not their major, a hobby, even if it's like rock climbing or, knitting. I provide them with some resources like how to use Canvas Studio, and then provide them with an example of an assignment that would receive full credit. And so this is really the first, I did it a little bit in the summer with students, and this fall will be the first time I'm really assessing this and seeing how it works. So it still might need some tweaks, but in this way, I'm just intentionally incorporating AI, but still trying to have this personal component and allowing them to be a little bit creative as they develop the product or deliverable. So that's what I'm trying. And I'm very open to any, once we start chatting about it, any feedback or ideas. So thank you.
That's awesome. All right, Caitlin.
I wrote like a short little script for myself because when I get excited about things, I ramble. And so I'm going to go through that. But I'm Caitlin. I'm in the criminal justice department. I teach ethics and criminal justice, criminology, sexual victimization, and sometimes victimology. I was super AI resistant to AI integration, and I thought that many of my assignments were AI resistant, but turns out they weren't. Heather can confirm just how resistant I was during many of these, but now I'm trying to approach AI integration with a fresh outlook. This semester, I included a responsible AI use policy that Heather helped me develop in her class this summer. And I put that in my syllabus rather than the AI prohibited policy that I had before, because I'll just be honest with you, the prohibited policy was simply not working. My AI use policy is long, but it educates them on what using it entails, the good and the bad. It also reminds them to cite AI use, provide a use statement, and emphasizes that generative AI is a tool, not a crutch. I loved the AI in the classroom course from the summer and found it extremely useful, but it has led me to spend a remarkable amount of time redesigning my course assessments, activities, homework, assignments, and papers. I'm finally done with that now, so I can talk about all those redesigns. I won't have time to share about all the activities that I revamped or generated anew using Gen AI tools, but I can share my approach with most of these. For most of my assignments, I asked students to use generative AI to tell them more about specific topics, generate charts or visuals to help them better understand concepts, create fictional case stories, help them find real life cases, or even allow generative AI to critique some of their arguments. Assignments always have an AI a use AI for this part and a use your own brain for this part. I often also included a reflection where students would answer a few questions about their experience with the process, the tool that they used, and the concepts they were learning about. I even have some that ask them to reflect on the ethics of using AI and how it may apply to the field more broadly, so in criminal justice. My favorite use was actually a paper Heather helped me redesign where the students are going to prompt AI to have a conversation with them that will help the AI design a fictional world that operates under an ethical system of their choosing for the ethics and criminal justice class. And then the rest of the paper instructs them to analyze the world that it produced through comparisons to our current criminal justice system and field. And then also has them personally reflect on the generative AI's accuracy and the complexity that it produced. And I'm happy to chat more about any of this or answer questions later. Thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. We'll wrap it up with Tammy.
Okay, like Caitlin, I was very resistant to AI. I had an AI prohibitive statement in my syllabus, and I was over it because no matter what I had done, and I had came up with some really creative assignments, whether it was discussion boards or papers or whatever, students were cheating, especially on discussion boards for complete online courses. So I went into this AI course, which I absolutely love. And if you haven't taken it, I would highly recommend this AI course with Heather. I started reading the literature and seeing what all these people were doing and figuring out. I had started, I got a CAS grant and I was redoing a module just to teach students the difference between AI and Wikipedia and an academic source. And so that's what I had envisioned, my transition to more AI inclusive policies being, but then I really started having a lot of fun with it. So I'm gonna give you two examples of what I've done in classes. One, my pet peeve is we have students read material and they don't actually read material. Okay, so I've created an AI assignment where they have to go to their textbook, write what the for instance, I teach research methods. So I want them to understand the difference between experimental and quasi-experimental design. So I have them write the definition of what the book says. They have to include the page number. They're literally copying out of the book. Then I have them basically go into AI, whether it's ChatGPT or any of the other versions. And I have them use an AI definition. Then I have them create their own definition that is basically that they could teach to a middle school or a high school student and make them understand it. Okay, so that actually gets them to understand concepts and actually prepare and study. You can also have them do, I think Caitlin mentioned it, charts. You can have them create a chart. So if there's two varying concepts, you can have them, you can say, make me a chart, and it will generally do this. And if you don't like that, you can say, add this, and it will add add all these things. So those are great study and tutor tools. And I think as some of you have said, it's great for helping them learn the material and study the material. But my favorite is, and it wasn't my idea, it came out of one of the readings, and I cannot remember the author's name, and I feel so bad when I do this. They had a prompt, and they were having AI talk to them. One of the biggest problems I have is when I teach research methods, I can spend a lot of time talking about quantitative methodology and giving them examples. But it's a lot harder with qualitative methodology and allowing them the time to actually do this, especially the type of populations that I work with, prisoners, homeless people, things like that. I just can't have them go interview these types of or drug addicts or whatever. So I was able to take a prompt and put it into AI where the student is the researcher and AI is the inmate. And you can set a variety of parameters, what type of crime, what their sentence is, their background history. I wanted them to approach it from a trauma-informed violence and how trauma causes criminality. So I added things like that in it. And then you can have the number of iterations ran. Okay, so that's great. It can also basically critique them on their interview skills and not only tell them what they did well, but what they didn't do well. Then you can incorporate, it's not just AI use, and depending upon what level, I have different structures for my undergrad methods class and my graduate methods class, but you can then take that and then say, okay, what'd you learn? What would you do better? What principles did you learn? And if you want to take it a step further, you can give their interviews to their peers and have their peers critique that, whether it's, if you can do that in the classroom, or you can do that in a discussion board format where they have to include their text from their chat into their discussion board and then have them critique it. So it has been a lot of fun, and I love this. And I actually, one of my friends called me the other day, and Caitlin, you can have this assignment because I know you teach crim. She was like, I haven't been in the classroom forever, because she was a department head. Came in, I kind of revamped that assignment. And so I basically created a serial, the students are BAU agents interviewing their serial killer of choice. And you should probably assign them, Caitlin, if you do, so they don't all cheat off one another and do the same one. But then they go through a conversation with them, trying to get out to why and how the whys of they engaged in it. Then they have to apply criminological theory, and they have to include all the things. So this can apply to probably any class. You can humanities, social sciences, hard sciences, education, and just what you're looking for. So it really does help give students those interview skills and that interaction that they often can't get. And I think they're going to enjoy it. So that makes me happy. And one other plug, Heather, I completely stole your idea because I'm so sick of discussion boards and students basically going into AI that I'm making them actually tell me about the readings. It doesn't have to be terribly in depth, but then they have to critique, or they have to do at least one response post verbally, with a lot of guidelines that basically, at least I'm getting them to read and open that book. So that makes me happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, the four of you, for those awesome introductions. We'll open it up now for questions. So if you have like a question for a specific person, you can ask that. If there's just a general question, you can ask that, and we can have them just pick up. So please feel free, ask away.
The math person, you said you had a grant for this?
Oh, yeah. So it's a very small grant from the College of Arts and Science. I think yeah, our deans want to encourage our faculty to use AI in classroom. So it's like $500. Yeah, it's a mini grant.
Caitlin, I was also interested in your use statement. So you mentioned it, but would you tell me a little bit more about it? Because I'm going to take some notes.
Yeah, so I kind of developed it in the class this summer. Heather shared a link of, I think it was syllabi statements. There was like 187 of them, and I genuinely scanned every single one of them, which is a lot. But anyway, I took notes myself and kind of just developed my own from all of theirs. And the syllabus statement, I don't have it memorized because it's brand new to me, but I can summarize some of my points from some of my new ones here. But the use statement more so is an idea that I got from Heather and the materials too, as well, where you basically ask the students every time they submit an assignment to say, um, I would like to acknowledge the use of generative AI tool name, ChatGPT or Copilot, a language model developed by whatever it was developed by. In the preparation of the assignment, I use the tool in the following ways: brainstorming, grammatical correction, citation, conversation to create a case scenario. And then it says this ensures transparency and the use of AI tools and helps to maintain academic integrity. What it looks like in every single one of my assignments is a little bit of a variation from that, of me working with prompt generators to create activities for the students. But basically, I just asked them to tell me what parts of the assignment they used AI for, which is spelled out for them. So they're just having to kind of take accountability and ownership and say, I used it to do this. I used my own brain to do this. And then I also asked them to provide an in-text citation for the use of AI and a reference for the use of AI, which I include in my use statement in my syllabus. That's much longer. And that use statement also, I kind of just detailed what AI is, the good and the bad. So things that we use it that are good, some things that they should be aware of, like hallucinations, which is when AI is making common mistakes. I didn't know the word for that until the class this summer. I informed them that it has biases that they should be aware of, that it can produce plagiarism, that it has an environmental impact, and I provide links to that. And I also warn them of privacy errors. So, don't put your personal information into this, and please don't put my materials into this either. I'm sure they will, but at least it's there asking them not to.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you.
I did go to a conference this weekend because I'm nursing anesthesia, and researchers are utilizing the AI. And so one of the things they harped and kind of made sure that they brought up is researchers are using AI. Just to pass this along, is not to be careful about putting your data, especially if it's patient related, because you're putting it out there.
A couple of people had mentioned there was a class this summer. Obviously, I missed it. Is there another one?
Yeah, so they're referring to my teaching alongside AI asynchronous course. We are running it again this fall. I'm planning on doing 15 more, allowing for 15 more people to go through it this fall. We're doing it on an application basis. I do have 23 applications already, but I'm happy to share it with you. And then, yeah, you can submit an application. We'll do it again in the spring, probably again in the summer, and we'll probably keep a wait list and just continue to offer it as long as people find use in it. So,
Hi, Heather. When are you notifying people of those applications for fall?
It'll probably be next week.
Next week?
Um,
Okay, thank
next
you.
week or week after, yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Richie, did you ask when we'll be letting people know, or how we're letting people know?
No, when?
When? Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I'm pasting the link in the chat for those who are interested. Like I said, we do already have 23 applications, but if you fill it out, at least I've got your information and know you're interested so that I can reach out to you again next semester if I can't get you in this batch. All right, more questions for my people, my wonderful, wonderful people.
So I wonder, just from the four panelists who spoke, like what are when you implement something new like this, that's still pretty cutting edge, like what do you keep your eye on as the semester goes through to decide, like, okay, I need to tweak this or move that, or that didn't really work, or that was great, I have to remember to do it exactly that way next time? Like, what do you anticipate, like, trying to keep your eye on this semester, as you continue to kind of like develop these kinds of activities?
For me, I guess if I notice any patterns, again, like how I used to, at where in the spots where I've said use your own brain, they don't use their own brain. They just continue on with the AI use.
Yeah.
And then another thing I forgot to mention was that for all the assignments that I've done this with, this was also a Heather idea, but I'm asking them to provide their chat log with AI. So of course they could probably open a new window and still ask it stuff, and then I wouldn't have that one and I would have a different one. But at least I'm trying to instill some form of accountability with that. And then I've built into all my rubrics like an responsible AI use part of the rubric. And basically they do it and they get 10 points, or they don't do it and they get 0 points.
Yeah.
And they have to include that in-text citation, the reference to AI use, their AI statement, and their log. And if they don't, then they just automatically lose 10 points, because that's something that's super simple. But I don't know.
Yeah.
My experience also has shown that you cannot, because even though you prevent you're putting because in the beginning also I was so against using AI or generative AI, but my experience shown that you cannot. The students were so using AI that at some point in my experience, I had to incorporate some rule. For example, uh, fact checking the contents. Do they actually exist? So, like for example, and also incorporating exams in the class. So make sure that they actually learn the contents, and also if possible presenting those contents to their classmates at the end, to ensure that the contents that they actually worked on, even either through the assistance of generative AI and in class activities or class lectures, they actually learn those contents. So I would incorporate a series of exams and presentations, lab, and how students understood those learned contents, or those brought contents into their tasks.
One of the ways that I try to prevent AI use is I assign very specific readings, and they have to use the readings, and they can't just go out and find other readings, because that's a telltale sign. My favorite is when I give them an assignment and they always cite the same book. Everybody's citing the same book. okay, first of all, the book isn't in the library. You're not getting the book. And so that's, I mean, looking at their references is a great way to see if they've used AI, because there's no way they had time to read an entire book. But I make them use the sources I gave them to support their information, and that's a good way to tell. And no matter how many times I tell them you have to use the sources, you have people who just type, and it's apparent that it's AI. And if they're all using the same example, that I also, when I give an assignment, I have the assignment in AI pulled up. And so if they're using the same example and everybody's using the same example, it's a telltale sign. There is no way to prevent students from using AI, even when you're giving them assignments that allow them in one part and one not. But there are ways to try to prevent it. And yes, they can go in and they can scan assignments in, but the likelihood of them doing that is they're not as likely to go in and scan those assignments that you have in, because if they're waiting till the last minute, it isn't happening. And to see how it's working, I just plan on asking them. I'm going to have questions that, after assignments, ask them how did they like the assignment? These just mid-semester checks. What do you like? What do you don't like? And if they're hating it and they say this sucks, one, it's either a really good assignment or it's not a really good assignment. So I have to figure that out.
Something that's been mentioned a couple of times too is how it can be wrong often, but bias, all that, but it can just straight up be wrong. I was developing I wanted a picture of a cell with 46 chromosomes in homologous pairs at a certain stage in mitosis, and I couldn't find it online. So I asked ChatGPT to make me one, and it was just straight wrong. And so I actually saved it, and I'm going to use it as a test question for my students, saying, I asked ChatGPT to make a cell with 46 chromosomes and homologous pairs at, interphase. Why is this image that I received incorrect? To also kind of remind them that it isn't always right, but yeah, using it in that way too.
What's funny is you can have it create a chart and it will create the chart. But if it says, do you want an infograph created? The infograph will be wrong from the chart they've taken the material. It can't translate from one format to another.
Yeah, I also noticed it was doing kind of some weird things with some Venn diagrams and charts the other day when I was practicing my assignment. I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, it's not the greatest with images. If you need very specific things, right? And numbers, it doesn't do well with numbers. So if you're like, I need 46, pairs of homologous, or yeah, it's not good with numbers. I've never been able to get it to do
Wow.
that.
And I think this is the reason why today companies, they need experts who can just verify the content what the AI generates. So I was just when I was seeing these kind of positions, so it just, forces me to think that, okay, so they still need a human brain to verify all these technologies and other things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. At the very beginning, I remember I used an image of a human hand with 6 fingers. And I saved that image and I opened the ChatGPT in classroom and showed the student that if you ask ChatGPT to count how many fingers on this image, ChatGPT would say five. Actually
Yeah.
6. So they used like a previous knowledge. So humans, okay, a human's hand with 5 fingers. That's previous knowledge. No matter what the actual image, they don't actually count the fingers on the image. So I use this example to show the student that actually, if you use other large language model like a Grok, and then or almost all those chat, AI tools say 5 fingers, but actually it's 6. So I use this. The student laughed a lot. But I say you cannot. This is like the point I mentioned earlier. You cannot trust ChatGPT blindly. You are human. ChatGPT give you answer, and then you have to look at this answer, whether this makes sense or not for your data. So you cannot just copy and paste the coding, but you also need to verify whether the output based on the coding provided by Chat makes sense or not. So I think and end of the final project oral presentation, I did a survey. I asked the student whether you like or how you think about the ChatGPT and for what part you use ChatGPT in your final project. Most students say the most helpful part is ChatGPT helped me to debug the coding and also give me a draft coding, and so that I can work on this draft coding. I don't have to memorize the basic programming language. So I most of students are so very happy to use that as a AI tool in the course. I think yes, but you also need to warn the student, so they cannot just 100% trust.
Yeah, I just before we wrap up here, I just put in the chat, your comments just reminded me of this. There's research coming out, and this is based on the general population and is done by marketing people, but there's evidence that suggests that the more people engage with artificial intelligence tools and understand how they work, have experimented with them, have seen these drawbacks, these hallucinations, the 5 fingers on the human, right? The less like enamored they are with them. So they say that lower AI literacy predicts greater AI receptivity. So the lower your literacy is, the more likely you're going to be like, oh yeah, use it for everything. It's super magic. But the more you understand the technology and its actual capabilities, you have a more nuanced approach to it. So I put the link to that publication there in the chat.
It will get better over time, though, just so we know that as we keep using it, it will get better over time, just like the computers and it's going to get better. So we have to just, keep adapting.
Great point. So I just want to thank my 4 guests again. Thank you guys for taking the time to chat with us. You're doing very cool things, and I think each of you are wonderful. So thank them. I'm going to let you guys go. Go get some lunch. I have another session starting at 1 o'clock, I believe. If you are attending that one, I'll see you there. If not, have a great rest of your day.
What is the 1 o'clock, Heather? What is that?
We're talking about Proctorio. So you were in my
okay.
Proctorio sessions yesterday.
Yeah,
So
okay. All right,
anything new.
thank you.
So is it, Heather, is it similar to the Proctorio from yesterday?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So it's the same?
Yeah, it's pretty
That's why-
similar. We're just going to talk about how it can help you prevent AI use specifically. Where yesterday I introduced it as a
All the settings.
yeah, all the settings and like as a general use kind of thing. We're just going to chat about how you might leverage it to deter AI use. So,
Okay.
same,
All right.
same kind of
Thank
content.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Heather.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Heather, this is Angel with the School of Nursing. I have
Thank you.
switched from complete